people, but I was not following what I'm preaching. And then I was like, okay, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to fail. And so right now, both of us are struggling with identity, failed it, trying it again soon. And that's our last one to finish the pyramid. Well, all the required ones. We still have all the optional ones to do. But yeah.
Nice. So I too failed identity the first time. You are not alone. And it was also, so that was actually the first one that I failed as well. And I failed identity my first time too. So identity and integration. And I was also
They're
the one
hard.
saying, it's totally fine if you fail. But you know what? I grew up in such a strict house, and my parents, they were always like, if you don't bring in an A and an A, you may as well just not come home. And so the idea of failing, it was just like, oh my God, I failed. It's a moment. It's a moment. Like, oh my God, it's just terrifying. Just absolutely terrifying. And you learn to get over it. It's like learning how to fail all over again. You're just learning how to not the fact that I can't play sports.
The first instinct is like, say, I'm not going to tell anybody. But then I went on Twitter and said, I failed identity. And then, because I was like, I'm going to just declare it to the whole world because they were like, I'm not going to tell anybody. Yeah.
Nice. So you both started in 2018. That's awesome. It's awesome. And when do you think when do you think you're actually going to go for your boards then? Do you think you'll go right after the pyramid? Do you think you're going to wait a while?
No, I feel like the journey would really start once I finish identity and finish the pyramid.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when that's the base, and that's when your journey really starts. So I don't think.
For real.
It'll be at least a year or more, maybe. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Same.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm thinking Bhavna and I were talking, and I think I will go first. It was kind of the deal that we came
I'll let her go first.
So I can report back.
Cynthia, you're next up. What's up, girl?
All right, so I'm Cynthia Thomas out of here at Deerfield Beach, Florida. I don't remember exactly when I started. I think it was probably beginning of 2019. And my motivation was also seeing that we didn't have a lot of women as a CTA. And so I was up to the challenge. Now, sometimes I feel like, do I really want to do that? Do I really gonna have the technical expertise to try and sit for that exam? But what I'm gonna focus on right now is to keep studying and keep trying to complete all the certs. Right now, I'm an application architect. So I cleared the left side, and I'm gonna start studying for the right side. I'm not sure when, because I do have a study buddy, but she's pausing right now. So I'm kind of pausing with her and trying to go into other certs. What else am I missing?
So we talked about what inspired you. We talked about where you're at. Yeah, I think you're good. I think you got it all.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. Lisa, your turn. Did I get that right? Did I say your name right? I'm so sorry if I got it wrong. And we talked so fast. I'm sorry. Lisa, Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah. So for me, I'm so glad that I saw this platform. In fact, just occasionally, I do keep this architecture group forum back to last year, but I was never able to join you one session later. Where I start from, I think I start from Java architect, and there was a need. There's a big project of Salesforce, and I have to jump in. That was 2016, around 2016. So I learned a lot from Salesforce. It's immediately like the platform. And I got a few certificates, but I did not really so passionate about that at that time because there are many other things I can learn, like Bhavana. In fact, I was thinking to go to computer science PhD, but never get time chance for that until the late 2018, got another big Salesforce project. And I think the responsibility made me think, if I don't know it, if I don't have a good foundation, I think it's how to say it's not the for me not right for all the trust from others, right? So along with the project, I learned Salesforce, and I started to be serious, want to become a CTA. I'm so surprised to see that many amazing ladies be able to get that. But for me, it's more I look for the knowledge, because I think Salesforce is a great platform so that we can learn a lot of enterprise level information, and there are so much resources there. So I think I was so serious. So I took 2.5 months to finish all the certificates for the application architect and the system architect. And I would want to pursue further to register for the CTA. But however, I think since I signed the case, I even haven't heard anything from that yet. And later I got other pursuits, so I got a little bit distracted. But now, in fact, I'm taking another Salesforce project. So I think since I'm learning it, I would like to go back to track to see whether I can pick up a CTA. That's where I am.
Nice. No, I love it. So you came from being a Java architect and working with Java?
Yeah, I start from Java. And right now I'm more enterprise architect, because I'm really a nerd trying to learn a lot of things.
Well, I think that pretty much everyone on this call is pretty much a nerd. So welcome to the club.
I'm so happy to see. As Alison mentioned, right? Sometimes you just need somebody around you, even say a yes, so that you move to next step. You know you will move to next step, but without buddy, you will not move that fast for sure.
I didn't get, where are you located?
I'm in Canada. In fact, right now, I live in Montreal. Probably I'm the only one not US right now.
Andy, your turn.
Hi. Well, I've been a Salesforce user for about 10 years. A little over 2 years ago, I started working on my certifications and specializations, and I do consulting, freelance, some directly with clients, and then some as a subcontractor. So I'm at the very, very beginning of this journey. So I'm taking actually Platform Developer 1 on the 21st this month. So, but I like to chime in and try and listen and learn 2 steps ahead. So thanks for accepting me in good company. So that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. Awesome. And so have you taken any of the exams in the pyramid?
Well, my schedule is right now, I signed up for Platform Developer 1. This month I'm taking it. My next step is sharing and visibility. That I will take about probably, but I mean, my target is by end of year.
Nice. Nice. And have you taken your Community Cloud consultant exam?
Yeah, I took my Community Cloud and I passed, yes.
So I just always read, so when some of the guys on my team were going for their sharing and visibility, the ladies on my team, since there's faith in myself, she has like 18 certifications, and then there's me, and I'm a little bit behind her, quite a ways behind her, but still. So when they were going for their sharing and visibility, one thing that helped me with mine was to have my Community Cloud, because there were a lot of external questions about external sharing and external visibility. So just a tip. So since you've already got that, you're good to go.
Yeah, I do work on communities also for clients. I mean, my understanding of sharing and visibility is pretty good, and I like that stuff. So my probably challenges more around coding. So I like to actually try out things when learning. I don't want to learn just to pass the certification. So I used to code long time ago, but I'm going back to it now.
Nice.
And Andy,
I
have you?
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I just had a question. Have you
Yeah.
gotten your app builder cert prior Dev 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
I have admin, service cloud, sales cloud, community, nonprofit, and app builder.
Yeah.
6.
Good job.
Nice.
Yep. And where are you located?
In Jacksonville.
Oh, you're close to me. We're getting some rain this weekend.
Well, I used to live in Fort Lauderdale area. I used to work for American Express, but that was like from 96 to 99 in Plantation.
Oh, yeah, it's close to me.
Yeah.
They have Salesforce now.
They do. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. I am so excited to have you here with us. And I'm so excited that you're starting your journey up the pyramid. What great timing. This is going to be a lot of fun. And thank you for sharing. Sean, your turn, dude. What's up? And you're muted, by the way.
There we go. There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I started working in the Salesforce ecosystem back in 2010, back at Florida Blue when I was working there. I've got 6 certifications now, very similar to Andy. I freelance and obtain contracts as I go. And I test out, my own kind of stretch goals through my own organization that I've developed. So community cloud, advanced admin, service, sales, platform app builder. So I've always wanted to go the developer route to at least extend my skill set that direction. So that is my intent to hopefully fast track that a little bit.
Awesome. And what inspired you to go for your pyramid certifications and such?
I think primarily just I've seen a lot of roles out there lately that require that skill set, and if there's something that I don't know, I like to not necessarily become the expert, or at least attempt to expand my knowledge in areas that I'm not too familiar with. So that's really the driver.
Nice. So next up we have I'm going to say your name wrong, dear. I'm so sorry. Anuj. And you're on mute. I'm gonna ask to unmute you. There you go. Okay. Since you haven't accepted, let's go with our 408 number. And I am guessing, oh, and you are driving. Thank you for the message. Okay, awesome. I will take my turn, and then you can go when you get back to the house and you stop driving, because it's early on the West Coast, early enough to need coffee to be awake for sure. All right, so hi everybody. I'll jump in and be a filler for time. I'm Megan. Welcome. I started with Salesforce back in 2008. I'm located out in Seattle. It's beautifully early in the morning here. I still love to live like I'm in college and sleep till the afternoon on weekends because I have no children. Yep, it's wonderful. Let's see. So where am I at? So I am, hey, I need to take that integration cert that I have been terrified to take since I failed it. Yeah, that's right, because I've been afraid to go back. And then, but I am taking my MuleSoft exam. I'm totally down to take MuleSoft, but I'm taking my Mule 4. And get me through the class, take everything else, but the integration exam just scared me away from everything. And then I'll be a system and application architect. I started wanting to go for my CTA back before the pyramid, when it was the multiple choice test and the panel. I first heard about it. So I ended up as a technical architect, but before I was a technical architect, I tried my hand as a developer, because before Salesforce had a really great description about what's an architect, what's a developer, what's an admin. I didn't study IT or computer science or any of that in school. I came from the lovely world of linguistics and Middle East studies in college, which is fantastic. I loved it. It was great. I considered going to rabbinical school, but my first job out of college was working for Salesforce as a customer success manager, and then I became an admin. And I just loved Salesforce. It was love at first login. And all I wanted to do was just get to the place where I could just continue about Salesforce and know more about Salesforce. And I wanted to know some coding and no more. Well, to me, that was, well, some sort of like type of developer admin, but like one with superpowers. So I figured I'd try my hand as some sort of junior developer. Well, then I learned it was an architect, and then I learned about being a technical architect and the CTA, and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to try this exam that nobody talks about that wasn't on a web assessor. I want that exam, and I want to go for that. And so I started working for it. And I have just loved Salesforce since the beginning, and I think it's so much fun. I'm also a user group leader, so make sure to attend your local user group. We're all meeting virtually right now, but make sure you go. Seattle Women in Tech, if you ever want to attend any of our virtual events, please let me know. You're always welcome. And I'm so excited to have all of you here. When I finally learned what an architect was, and I learned I didn't have to sit there and try to figure out more about coding, I was so excited. I could do little Apex and do some visual force. I've written a couple Aura components, but I'm not a dev. This new JavaScript exam, that's not going to be for me. The new LWC components, I can definitely edit code, but starting components from scratch takes me forever. And whenever I start a component from code, I insist on taking out my developer guide and having it right there with me, because I don't want to break it. And I don't want to break anything I'm doing. So I'm probably the slowest start from scratch developer in the world. I'm pretty good at code review. I can definitely tell when stuff is broken. But to start from scratch, I sit there and I double check, triple check every single thing I do.
Don't worry, I'm right there with you.
I love the look on your face while I'm saying it. It's like, yeah, you get me. You get me. And being able to dig into SSO, being able to dig into, sharing visibility, sharing sets, Apex sharing, coming up with, should we use an ETL tool? Should we write a custom integration? I would guess that they're on that side of the building, 3rd floor. Yeah, no problem. Yep. So it just, sorry about that, you guys. It just makes it so fun. And the more that I can learn and the more that I can connect, and that Salesforce added in the community, oh my gosh, that's just something I have never experienced. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. So being able to be connected to people all the time, it's just fantastic. I love it. And, there's other people that are excited about this technology as much as I am. It's fantastic. I'm so excited. And everybody wants to study together and help each other out. And one of the things I'm hoping to achieve with this group is for people that don't have a study buddy, they can get one. You can have people to run mocks with. If you have scenarios, you can share them in the group. And hopefully we can all slowly start preparing for our exams be it one of the web assist or pyramid exams, or be it for the panel. And people don't have to be in the same place that you are. Either they can have taken that exam, or they can also be studying for the same exam. But I've gone beyond what I was saying, that what I said we should be going over. And our 408 number is finally signed in. What up? Now he's on audio. It's your turn, man. Thank you for getting, I hope you have your coffee. I want to ask to unmute you. Oh no, you unmuted yourself. Perfect. Jeannie. The other Seattleite that's on the phone.
Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. My headphones are thing. Sorry for that. No, thanks for waiting. And everyone, good morning. And this is Jana. I'm part of, I'm from Seattle as well. So we were trying to catch up with Meghna, and Megan, sorry, has been very helpful and organizing these, and always want to get in touch with one of these study groups and learn more. I never had a chance before. We were trying to catch up on a beer, but we never happened. I think we'll try hard and get that going as well. Yeah, a little bit of my background is I've had both my application architect as well as system architect certifications right now, and I'm left out with CTA. Where did I start with CTA? I have not done any pre-work on those, but I was kind of planning. I was trying to look for a buddy, but I miserably failed because I work for Amazon, so a lot of work-life balance kind of squeezes into work. And I hardly wanted to back those time, and want to spend more on getting this path up and running, and I want to be able to give the board exam by end of at least May, and it is by end of May next year. So yeah, I'm super glad I'm here, and thank you everyone for accommodating me as well.
So what have you been doing? Working for Amazon, definitely an issue with work-life balance there, at least from the rumors and the people that I know that work over there. So how have you been preparing for your boards?
To be honest, I think, I mean, again, I packed up everything, and then, kind of on the shutdown mode right now on the preparation. But I think today is the first day. I think I started, I should get back to my preparation. So I think I'll plan things from now onwards.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so excited that you're here. It's so great to talk to you. Like on the phone instead of via IM. This is awesome. Thank you for coming.
I'm super excited.
This is great. And I'm super excited that you're here too. So welcome, and welcome everybody. I'm so glad you all made it. This is fantastic. And look at that. See, you can turn your camera on even though it's so early in the morning.
I didn't realize the camera was off, so sorry about that.
You've already gone out of the house though. You've made it to Starbucks and back. Yeah. So of course you're ready for the day. All right, everyone. So in terms of exams that you're doing next, so I have that Andy is going for his Platform Dev 1. I have that Sean is going for his, oh my gosh, I just left my iPad in the other room and I was sitting here and it was going off my memory, and that's not going to work. There are too many people. Hold on, let me grab my iPad. I was just looking at it. I'm one of those people that if I don't hold on to things, I lose them. There it is. Okay. I'm also a pacer, so I continuously leave things in the other room while I'm on the phone. I know it drives my boss nuts. There we go. All right. So we have that Ghana is going for his boards next. I'm going for my MuleSoft. Sean is going for, I have which ones you have. Which one are you going for? Was it sharing and visibility?
Platform Dev 1 as well.
Platform Dev 1, okay.
Platform
Dev 1, okay. Allison, you're going for identity. Bhavna, you're going for identity.
Yes. Please pray for
Cynthia,
us.
you got this. You got this. Uh,
I
uh,
need to schedule my service. So
okay.
on the pyramid, I actually don't haven't elected my next one. I need to
Okay.
start looking at the system architect. Actually,
Um,
any ideas which one I should do first? I was thinking about doing integration first because I believe it will be the hardest. And I was supposed to be on a integration project, so I think that might help. But now I'm not sure if I'm going to be on that project.
so I did all my easy ones first and then left the hard ones for the end. And then Faith on my team did all of her hard ones first and did all the easy ones last so that she could have a nice smooth ending and knock them out. I don't know. I like doing the easy ones first. I felt like it just made it nice and smooth to just feel like I had an accomplishment. I do feel like I should have done every other one, like done an easy one, then done a hard one, so that I could feel like I had something nice in between. Like
So
started
like,
with
no, I'm just
Which
saying
one
like
I'm missing is
deployment
deployment.
architect, it was the easiest for me on both
Yeah.
sides actually. If you've done that kind of stuff, I mean, it depends on, like, I am a developer, so anything, so sharing and visibility was really hard for me because I have never done much of admin work. It was really hard for me. And actually platform app builder for me was harder than platform developer one. So because
Yeah, it depends.
I haven't done much admin stuff. So yeah, lifecycle one was easy. Identity is still hard. Integration was hard, and to the point that I passed it, but then I am still not confident calling myself an integration expert. So I took the, Salesforce has those classes. So I took a week-long class, and that's when I found out I knew more than I thought I did. And but I was like, I feel good.
So I took that integration class too, and I don't think that integration class aligned with the exam very much at all.
Yeah, I find that a lot actually about classes versus the actual exams. But yeah, but that class was interesting.
The class was interesting. Yeah. I definitely think the last day of the class is the day I think I got the most out of it, when we got towards the end of everything. Yeah.
When you start like integrating with Twitter and all that stuff, is that what we do towards the end?
Exactly.
Yeah. They were like, do this with your like integrate with your Twitter, and I was like, you don't understand. So I just posted something like test on Twitter, and then I got like right away like 7 replies, and I was like, you don't understand. I have a big family on Twitter, and everybody's gonna start saying, what are you doing? And most people in the class like didn't even have a Twitter account, so they were trying to create a Twitter account. But yeah, that was fun.
It's actually interesting. I've tried this Trailhead Bootcamp. I think they had exact content what the exams was asking for, in fact. And I'm surprised, there's a special class for integration, but then that was not covering the certification part of it. I was a little surprised.
So the difference is that, like the class would tell you, these are the steps to do this, right? The exam would say, this is the scenario, what would you pick? And all 4 answers are correct. So you would go for the answer that how it works, but maybe that's not the most optimal answer. I mean, that's the main problem also with identity. And all of these things, like all the answers are correct sometimes, but which is the best one? Like even like say for automation, they will say, how would you automate this? I would always write a trigger, but you have to start with this, like the least complex. So you have to start with workflows. If that doesn't work, then you try process builder. If that doesn't work, then you go for flows. If that doesn't work, then you go to code. But so they want to hear, I'm going to use a workflow rule or a process builder, when you might say, oh, I already have an Apex trigger, so I'm going to just add 2 more lines to that, but that's not the right answer, because they say always go for clicks, not code, and from least complex. Yeah,
I find sometimes the more you know, the more difficult the exam gets, actually, because like if you don't know a lot, the easiest answer, the easiest way of doing it. So that's the obvious answer.
And always and always pick the Salesforce way. And I hear this is even more so important when you're going for your boards, is if they give you another tool and then they give you a like MuleSoft, For example, since it's an exam on my mind and a tool on my mind, pick the product owned by Salesforce. Always pick the product owned by Salesforce. Even if it's more expensive and it wouldn't be in budget, pick the product owned by Salesforce. Yeah.
Right. And then they would like for identity, they say, should it be, server initiated, service provider initiated, or IDP initiated? And then if Salesforce is, it should be wherever the Salesforce is. If Salesforce is the service provider, then initiate there. If Salesforce is the IDP, initiate there. So that seems to be the right answer for identity.
It is. That's how I got through that exam. It's always Salesforce. That's how I went through it. And I was actually taking that exam and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to see what this exam is like. I don't want it to be like integration. And I just went with Salesforce as the answer and I passed. I was like, oh my God, I didn't think I was going to pass this. I was just looking at what the exam was like.
I was so mad because I calculated, how you calculate the percentages and everything. And I missed it by it sounded like I missed it by like a 1.25 question. And I'm like, darn it. And then it's been a while, so I forgot everything. So now I have to relearn everything.
Nice. That's always the worst. It really is when you were so close. I'm just so scared to take that exam again. I don't want to fail again. But it's one of those things where you just got to pick yourself up and do it. I've got it scheduled on my calendar now to retake it because I just need to get it done. But it took me a while. I took it, end of last year, and I'm only now taking it again, start of October. But again, trying to schedule an exam the first half of this year was nearly impossible. I don't know if any of you tried to schedule one. They were so far out for dates.
In the beginning of the year was, but now it's, I think it's
now it's a lot easier. Yeah.
Has anyone tried Platform Developer 2?
So Nathan Pepper took it and he passed it.
I passed it the first time, but the hardest thing for that was the Aura component super badge. That just drove me crazy. Yep. So exam wasn't bad, but that super badge, they call everything boat something, boat search, boat results. And I was like, they named it so badly. And then I had issues with that. I did it halfway and then I said, forget it. And then a few months later, I said, okay, I have to do it because otherwise I can't take the exam. And then now they have this, they just copy pasted it sort of for the Lightning Web Components. And I was like, I'm not doing it unless they change all the names because this was so confusing to me. But yeah, that super badge was really hard.
That's the boats with friends, right?
Yeah.
Our friends with boats, one of those.
Or something like that, yeah.
With friends doesn't make any sense. Sorry.
That one was really hard, that super badge. But yeah, exam itself wasn't bad.
I have a question for you all. You all mentioned about Salesforce class. So is like your employer is paying for that, or is it something that you're doing out of your pocket? Because I'm doing all my certs out of my pocket, and it's
your employer doesn't pay?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, so I'm self-employed, and I know Andy and Sean are too. So yeah, we gotta pay for our stuff, but yeah.
So how much is that integration class? Do you remember?
I think it's like
crazy.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's like 4,500 or something. It's a lot. Yeah.
And I thought it was like 3,500. Might be 45.
Something like that. Maybe something around 4,000 something. I think. Yeah.
It's definitely, the classes are definitely expensive. One thing I want to try out is I want to check out these new domain architect classes. The system architect class and the the application architect class.
Yeah, I wanted to sign up for one, but they didn't I saw it on Twitter, but then when I went there was like no availability. Yeah, that day.
So they were just over one of my deployments, so I wasn't able to sign up for the one that I saw. I'm hoping they have more dates up, and if they do, I plan on taking at least the system architect class, because those exams are just, I just think it would be better to have more experience in those areas. I just think that's I spent less time in those areas and more time as an admin, so I think getting more experience and more information would be good. After I take that class, I'll definitely let you know if I get more out of it than I did out of the individual classes. it'll definitely be before the end of the year. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're looking at the comments on the chat.
Oh, hey, Danielle.
But, yeah, and we have a news saying that it's going to sharing visibility next, but an international exam. I don't know what international is.
Okay. And then I want to do, of course I click outside the window. Okay.
And yes, we have Daniel also joined us.
Daniel, welcome.
Hey.
So we just went around and we had everybody say where they're from, where they're at in their journey, what their next exam is, and then just give a little bit of background about, you know, what inspired them to start their journey. Your turn.
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel. I'm from the Boston area. I'm currently working through some of the system architect topics. Specifically right now, development and deployment designer. It's pretty interesting. I love diving in and learning best practices and what's under the hood for Salesforce. So that's what I really enjoy about these particular topics within these domains. And yeah, I'm just really passionate about our Trailblazer community. I'm passionate about, you know, the user experience and automation and spreading, you know, the joy of what the platform can do and helping uplift each other. And Megan, I'm just so glad that you started this group for us. It's really awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. We're happy to have you here. And I'm just glad to be able to bring together so many amazing people. You all are so great. This is so wonderful just having everybody here and just getting to know everybody and where everyone's at. I think it's definitely helpful. And it's definitely helping with planning some of the stuff. So one thing we were talking about were some of the Salesforce classes that are out there. And have you taken any of them?
Yeah, I recently did, I think it was the first system architect workshop.
How is that?
Yeah, I was interested in it. I was hoping they would do something virtual rather than nothing at all, because I got a lot out of the application architect bootcamp that was at Trailhead DX. And so, yeah, I think it covers a lot of information. The instructor was wonderful. I think it's always awesome hearing from both CTAs who are then inspiring us all and sharing their knowledge, but then also the classroom interaction. You know, we all encounter a variety of scenarios. So being able to just talk it through and ask questions was really helpful. We probably spent a little more time on content than the scenario than I was hoping for, because I think for me, what's really important, I think I heard this a little bit earlier when I joined, just that practical and scenario-based learning too is important. But I also like that the course encourages architect thinking. We can all get like the how-to, but you know, sort of when to apply a solution or to think through different options and to be able to justify based off of the requirements or the constraints why we chose a particular path, and making sure that's documented so people know in the future. I think is what's really valuable, is sort of getting into that mindset of an architect and thinking through all the different variables. So being, I think, the first class, you know, I think, you know, it relatively went pretty well, and I would encourage, I think they're going to keep tweaking it a little bit and encourage more people to check it out if that's of interest.
Awesome. And then does your employer pay for your classes and your certs, or are you paying out of pocket?
So they've definitely supported me in different ways. I work for a nonprofit, so in this case, Salesforce themselves had a 50% discount off the class. So that was obviously very helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And then, Cynthia, I know we were in the middle of talking about some of your stuff, and then we got sidetracked with Daniel joining. I want to make sure that we've answered all your questions.
Yes, I think so. And based out of our conversation, probably I'm going to go to development life cycle next. I think it makes more sense. But I need to think about a target too. Well, I need to pass Service Cloud first, and then I'll think about that. Are we doing this every other weekend or?
So for the next 3 weeks, I'm trying out a few different times, just because we're an international group. So I'm doing next week at noon Pacific, and then I have one in the evening at 8 p.m. And then I'm taking a week off or 2 off, depending on schedules. I'm actually going to be sending out a survey asking about times again. And then for October, we'll be getting our times back up once I hear back from some people. So yeah, there'll be another morning one. And I'll be waking up early again sometime in October. So yeah, having to see that there's another 8 o'clock in the morning on weekends too. Yeah. One thing to keep in mind, a tip for your Service Cloud exam, knowing the difference between service contracts, milestones, and entitlements, in cases, of course, and the use case for each and how they work together. Super important. I just coached a Meravis cohort, and that was one thing that just kept coming up when working on Service Cloud. And they were all just starting to go for their exams. The cohort just ended like last week. So definitely something to keep in mind. And then also, if you've done a lot of admin work, keep in mind your sharing and visibility exam. Definitely a big one for people who have done a lot of admin work, as something that is a lot easier for administrators to take on as well. I agree, the deployment exam was probably my favorite exam, and I do a lot of deployments. They usually come up with our deployment models and how we manage our Git repos for projects, but it's also a passion of mine, just deployments as a whole. So yeah. And if you love that stuff, you'll do just fine on that exam. It'll be no problem for you. Besides deployment tools, it's one of my favorites. Speaking of deployments, have you all seen that new dev center that Salesforce is coming out with? It's going to be they're looking at coming out with it. It's coming out this September. They talked about it on the Architect Summit. It's their replacement for screen sets.
Oh, what?
Yeah, if you go to the other architect group, like the main Salesforce architect group, they have the videos up in some of the screenshots. Changes are going away. And the new dev center deploys to source control. Right now, it goes to GitHub, but they're going to expand it to go to other source control. It's going to be a dev preview this month, and then they're hoping to have their beta and pilot and then GA in the next few releases.
Yeah, I think I heard a little bit about it, but I didn't dig into that.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And you got an item called work, which is what you're going to associate. Salesforce will auto track your changes. You're going to decide which changes you want to associate with the work item. After the dev preview, it'll work with Jira, Agile Accelerator, and all sorts of other tools. Right now, it just associates with this work object. So cool. Finally, something better than change sets built into Salesforce.
And that's so funny, actually. ServiceNow, ServiceNow had the exact same feature. So I'm super glad Salesforce has brought it up. And then they're super fast working on these specific scenarios.
Yeah, it's about time. I think there were like the first slide was like 47,000 votes to change sets on one of the ideas on the idea exchange. I'm like, it took you 47,000 votes? Like, come on. Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to be so wonderful. It's so cool to be able to have an easy way for everyone on a project to go to source control and deploy.
Yeah.
And I mean, partners have been putting together tools like this for a long time. So I'm excited. So excited. That is probably going to be one of the coolest things that comes out this year. next year,
Okay.
whichever year it finally goes GA. Next year it goes GA, but yeah. Oh, I can't wait. But yeah, definitely a big step forward in deployments. That's going to have to change that whole exam. Like, they're going to have to remove everywhere they say change that since they
Right.
new really cool dev center. It's going to be awesome. I'm just like in awe of that thing. I can't wait. I want it turned on in all my orgs. I mean, it doesn't
Wait,
work
did
with
I miss
Scratch
the
orgs yet.
forward lurking statement in that one?
Yeah, it's coming out in dev preview this month.
Okay, this month.
This
All right,
month,
cool.
yeah. September 2020. Oh man, I can't wait. Just can't wait. And I know we've got people who need to jump off. This is so fun, you guys. I'm excited. And then we've got, so we still got people. We still got a good number of people. So what else are you all looking for in terms of architecture to learn about? What type of topics can we get together? What type of things can I help organize so that we can make sure that these meetings are helpful for you all?
I was gonna say anything associated with multi-org would be beneficial.
I have some experience. I have some experience on that. I can, shadow someone if, yeah.
You all have like 1,000 orgs, don't you?
Yeah. That's one of the benefit, I think, working with multi-orgs, the things which you would get always to see, you don't get experience, in the regular world. For instance, we have something like a trial org where you can set up all the security, configurations ahead of time, and then you create a template sort of thing. And then if somebody wants to spin up a new Salesforce org, you would just link up that template ID, and boom, right off the bat, you have all the security configurations, configured when a new Salesforce instance is spun off. That is super awesome, actually.
That is way cool. What are you using to do that?
I think Salesforce will enable something like another instance for that, and then they call it as a trial org. I think that's what they call, and it has a setting and the setup, I think, which you don't see otherwise, in the regular environments. So you can create a
You've got
template.
to have it activated.
Yeah, you got to get it activated, and you have something like a template, and then you use the template to automatically send that information to Salesforce, and Salesforce say, all right, I think I have the template ready. I will just stamp everything, whatever you have in this template.
It would be great to have you go over some of the multi-org strategies and just, whether or not you're using multiple tools, or if that's something that you're using Salesforce to Salesforce for, are your orgs connected, that kind of thing. I know,
sure,
throwing that on you. I don't know if you're ready to do that right now, or if that's something you want to do next session, probably.
Maybe I'll keep it for next session. I think I'll have a couple of things I can bundle up. Like, for example, we use all of our production environment as our identity provider, and then we use to hook up all the sandboxes to one of our production environments. So I can walk you guys through those sort of little setup things, which are very handy, and which are very self-serviceable aspect of things, instead of waiting for like 2 weeks long, or 3 weeks long, or 4 weeks long to set up a simple SSO for a given sandbox.
That's awesome. So the project I'm working on right now, we're actually building a community where the users can be part of multiple communities, but they should only see the data exposed in each community within the community that data is exposed in. And when you have those generic pages, speaking of SSO, when you have those generic pages in a community, they make it so that any object that's not exposed gets to have the generic page. It just makes it so messy. Because if you don't add the object, the generic object page is used. So all of a sudden, they could actually see that object because it's one user. They have the same profile. So they could technically see that object. So working on a strategy now to figure out how to actually block those other objects within the other communities, but still give them access to them in the community that's supposed to have them.
Right. Oh,
That's
that's
my
interesting.
fun plan right now that I'm trying to come up with. And
I see.
what a mess that truly is to try to design. And it's got some fun SSO. So perhaps, and I don't want duplicate data. So they can't actually have 2 contacts and 2 users, even though
Right.
they have Okta, and they could really have some magic that could work. But no,
Yeah.
can't do it. But that's going to be fun. Should have that ready to go within the next week, apparently. So that'll be a good time. Good time.
Sure.
Yeah. Man, SSO was cool though. I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Bhavna and is oh my gosh, I am drawing a total mind blank right now. Alison, we'll talk a little bit about how their experience went with the identity exam after they take it, and share some of that with us. I think that would be super helpful, and just kind of go over some of the items besides Salesforce. It's always Salesforce, because it is always Salesforce. But what are some of the things to keep in mind when studying? What are some of the tips and tricks? It's just been a while since I last took that exam, and I don't really remember everything that was on it. I don't know about you, Donna, if you remember anything about this.
Oops, you went on mute.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember anything from when you took it.
The identity.
Identity.
Yeah, I think the that's where I think most of the Trailhead bootcamp has helped me a lot. Although I
Yeah.
know all these tactical things on setting up identity and things like that, but I think the class was very helpful in explaining more details onto like what is authentication, what is authorization, and that's a key difference and all that. I was kind of didn't have those terminology specifically for those, but I think had the knowledge. It was like don't have the actual technical terminology aspect of things, so it was super helpful from that. I think it was easy for me to crack through the exam. Yeah.
And then Daniel, what about you? You're very quiet. You're always chatty. What's going on, man? What have you been working
Listening.
on? What's exciting in your life?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying diving into the deployment areas. And my next step is to get some more hands-on practice with Git, GitHub, and the CLI. And because in my organization, we have an admin of one. We don't have a big development team. So when I read about the different ways of deploying, we're mostly using change sets. But I think that even in a small org, there's a lot of productivity that could be gained from using some of these other tools. And while some people may feel like, well, version control and having GitHub, maybe a lot of overhead on top of what we're doing, I could definitely see the benefit of exploring it, or at least just understanding more about how it works. I think it's a fascinating topic. So one of the things I realized is I did set sort of a date out in the future to sit for the exam. And I think I'm going to push that out a little bit more because I want to make sure, that I'm never just studying for the exam's sake. There's some big topics around. So this is probably the area where I need to focus the most, is sort of on the deployment tools. And when I set out to do this topic, it was to gain some of that experience. And so I think it's more important to sort of tinker and have fun and try it out. And then if there's some benefit to my org and implementing some of it, if it gives us a little more rigor or a little more automation even perhaps, then that's going to be a benefit. And then, go ahead and sit for the exam. Because what I'm trying to do is bring a lot of prior pre-Salesforce experience using, developing software and reports and things of that nature and applications onto what Salesforce's best practices are. So it's helpful, but it's definitely a lot of hands-on experience I think is the key. So some of the modules that I have left for Trails on Trailhead deal with, diving into GitHub and getting more familiar with it. So that's what I'm excited. I think I always like the practical experience. And yesterday I was working on something I thought would take an hour on Trailhead, which was diving more into unit tests, which I have done and covered before, but they really put through the paces of not just like copying and pasting, but really sort of tweaking it and not telling you exactly how. And I think that's fun. It took a way longer, but I learned more by doing it than just reading what, the trail had to say in the module. So and I think that goes to any of these domains. It's just any of these domains. It's not as, I think some of you were saying, it's not necessarily an everyday thing that we encounter or have to set up. We have SSO going in my org. It's set up. There's not a lot of tinkering of it. So therefore, you have to find other ways to sort of practice these concepts, and being in community together like this is super helpful because we can cover each other. And then if you do those workshops or boot camps, the value there for me was diving into a scenario together and thinking through all the implications. So, yeah.
So speaking of the writing code on Trailhead, so one thing that I heard is that Salesforce is going to make it Trailheads, I guess more difficult is probably the way to put it, but they're a better learning experience where when going through the modules and the scenarios where you have code where they don't actually make it so that you can copy and paste the code over, and where you're actually going to have to be learning, which I think is just great. A lot of, for the past couple of years, it's been just, copy, paste, done. And you got through the module for whatever the code module was. And specifically for the ones that are maintenance exams, this is where I had heard that it was coming out that copying and pasting wouldn't be an option. They wouldn't give you the code that was going to be used for your for the actual challenge, and that you would actually have to learn it. And Daniel, you're
I like they had a mix of it. So I think to get you going and to walk you through the concept, part of the unit testing was having you cut and paste some of it, but they were walking you through. But then the actual challenge was telling you to continue and make sure you get 100% code coverage. So they didn't tell you how. They just told you, what to kind of focus on. So then you had to write out you had to adjust those lines in the tests to make sure you were covering the other areas. Because cutting and pasting, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's just you have to make sure you're understanding what are you cutting and pasting, especially if you're Googling things, right? So I think the more they could do, and that's what's so great about the super badges, is they give you even far less direct support and ask you to think through the scenario. And so I think that's definitely valuable.
And then speaking of deployments and Get, so my Thursday night was super fun. So I mentioned the fact that I'm on a new project, my super long project. It was a time and materials project, which for those of you that aren't in consulting means you don't have a set of hours for the week. The customer buys, they have X amount of dollars and they just get to use those number of dollars, and they can use those hours all in 1 week, or they can use those dollars over a few weeks. So I'm so glad that project is over. So my super crazy project is over, and I'm on a new project now, which is a normal project. And I was working on our deployment model. And speaking of Get, I actually just took our customer's name off of this so I can show you. Notice the little dotted lines from on the meeting with the customer. But I came up with our repo and org strategy, and just how our CI/CD is going to work. everybody knows the deployments get a little crazy. So why not have continuous integration? And this line isn't supposed to be here. That's going to drive me nuts. Let's delete that. Oh, I've got the lock on, so it's not going to let me. But just being able to have, your path to your repos. And so this is our little feature branches, and then they go into the orgs or into the standard branch, and then it'll go over and auto deploy to the org. And then once it passes, you'll go from the branch up into the next branch, and then it'll auto deploy into the org. This type of stuff is so fun to me, and it's entirely practical. And so, Daniel, to your point, deployments, so much fun. And it's one of those things that you're going to do like for projects for every day. And I love the fact that you're starting to dig into it more. If you ever want to chat it up and go into it, just let me know, man. Totally happy to dig in, answer any questions, play around with stuff, talk about continuous integration, talk about manual deployments, talk about tools, anything.
I would love to be part of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can totally do that on one of these calls too. Yeah, I would. I love it. I actually got the continuous integration set up on Thursday night too. I went and became a little bit of an overachiever,
Nice.
and had it ready to go. So I'm excited.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, it was a fun evening. I stayed up a little later than I planned, but it was totally worth it because no more deployments. Yay!
Sweet.
Yeah, there are lots of tools out there that you can use. You can use Jenkins, you can use GearSet, you can use FlowSum, you can use pretty much anything. It's made by pretty much all those partner tools all have continuous integration now. But it's getting easier for anyone to set up. To set up continuous integration as an administrator. I mean, that's something that you can do. Great example is with GearSet. I'm a big GearSet fan, total GearSet girl. I think it's a great tool and a great company full of wonderful people. They're always super nice and they love feedback. So I think that's awesome. If something doesn't work, they actually want to hear about it and why, so they can fix it, which is awesome to hear. They don't just want to hear the positives about their tool. And I had a problem with their tool and stuff not working. And they actually got on a call with me after my project ended, and they wanted to know what else didn't work. And just having somebody be so proactive, I thought was cool. But so I'm using GearSet for continuous integration on this project, like I did on my last one. I don't have to go through the trouble of setting up Jenkins and everything anymore. I just setting up all this other stuff, and that just used to take forever. Now I can do it with a bunch of clicks. So different. Just totally different world than it was a couple of years ago when it would take forever to set that stuff up. Now you can set it up in an evening, while sitting there and listening to music and eating dark chocolate and Kit Kat bars and not stay up all night.
Love that.
You could probably do it while having a glass of wine too, but I had a 7 o'clock the next morning, so probably not the best choice. What about all of you? Preference in deployment tools, deployment pros and cons. I know I mentioned that Dev Center coming out. What are some of the gotchas that you've had with deployments? One other thing that I've heard from Salesforce is they're looking at more items that can't be deployed to make them deployable. Now that they've worked on the Dev Center, is adding new items so that there don't have to be so many things that are manual. Huge win.
So I tried CI/CD with some of the Amazon internal tools like pipelines. I think I wanted to try the same set of tools which is available on the AWS suite of applications. I don't know if somebody has tried that. Let me know. I would love to partner with them and try to set up some CI/CDs.
Like Bitbucket pipelines.
Yeah.
So that was my go-to up until this past summer. I've got some great preset stuff that I've used in the past for both metadata API and DX in repos that I can pass over to you. Happy to talk through it. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Sure. So we should definitely catch up on the
Yeah,
beer
but
thing.
continue.
Sure.
But yeah, especially because we can now sit outside. If only the sky
Yeah,
wasn't
exactly.
orange, and like it was
Yeah.
Armageddon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to go and hang out, but it's kind of scary out there right now. I was surprised you went outside for coffee. Like,
I did. I think
it,
I have, put up my mask and everything just to so that I don't breathe too much of smoke.
right? Man,
Yeah.
it looks so scary out there right now. Everything's just got that weird glow. And yeah, so quick sidetrack story. So the other night I had gone to bed and I woke up and it was like 1:30 in the morning, and there's this weird like smell like my building was on fire. And I was like, oh my God, is the building on fire or is that the forest fires again? And I step outside and you actually see it like creeping up in the sky over the darkness where the orange sky is coming in. And it's like, nope, it's the forest fires. My building's not on fire. I'm okay. Kind of like, and so the fact that I'm probably breathing in more pollution than I need to for like the next lifetime. But yeah. So tell me more about your goal with the pipelines. Sorry.
So the goal for me was to use both the code commit and pipelines and then the general get get features whatever AWS has to offer. So I was trying to use those three combinations, which most of the engineering teams, like regular engineering teams, not Salesforce in general, but regular hardcore engineering teams use internally, wherein I think one of the teammates have set it up in a way like close to what an typical engineering application would do, like deploy something to a server and then it goes to Salesforce. I've actually did a lot of modifications on that, and I was able to save like 50% of the time and the entire deployment time it's taking in general. Because again, technically it didn't make sense for me to deploy to a physical server because it's all hands off to Salesforce anyways, right? So I kind of removed all that extra work other teammate was doing, and then was able to make some improvements. But I wanted to use something out of general Amazon infrastructure, which is on the AWS platform. That way, a lot of teams could easily afford those and be able to set up CI/CD very fast. I know Jenkins is out there. It was pretty, what do you call, easy access tool, but I want to see if AWS as a new technology can also help us, and we can add a lot of security aspects of elements there, basically.
Yeah, Jenkins actually takes a bit of time to configure, in my opinion, compared to just having a preset. I don't know. I've always found that Jenkins takes more time to configure, and it doesn't always work right. I've had issues with Jenkins in the past where when I've used it, where all of a sudden it's either not deploying properly or all of a sudden stuff crashes and burns and you've got to go back and reconfigure everything. I don't know. I haven't found it to be the most reliable tool.
Sure.
And I've also found that it's just, I don't know. It's not always my best friend. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Sure.
But I would love to dig into that with you.
Yeah.
Share some stuff, share some repos, share some code, go over details. Yeah, let's do it.
We
It'd be
can do
awesome.
it. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah.
And so one other thing that I have thought about for these calls is, since we have a number of people and everybody may not want to talk about the same topics, is using the breakout room features with Zoom. So if we do ever want to, separate off into groups and go and talk about different topics, that we can. I know we do that for the Maravis meetings, and it works really well. So that some people could go and talk about Service Cloud, some people could go and start talking about what they need to review for the exam because they're not self-studying, they're in exam prep, and then other people can go and just have a glass of wine and chit chat. It's definitely worked out for us. So definitely an option, and we have that feature with Zoom. So one of the reasons why Zoom is a great tool. So yeah. So what else? Andy, what about you? What are you working on, man?
So what I'm working on right now, I don't know if this is going to be very technical or interesting for you, but with the clients, I'm working with a nonprofit, and we just implemented the new case management package, the module that Salesforce put out. So it's that one is brand new. So that's interesting. Let's see how efficient that's going to be for the nonprofit to use. It's a paid module that they have created, and they've been working on building new functionality around nonprofits and putting them out.
I haven't heard about this new case management package. Tell us about it.
Yeah, let me just tell you, I mean, briefly, they created something called program management module, and program management module is very basic and for free. So you can actually use that on top of your nonprofit success pack. And what that does is you can create programs and program cohorts, and you assign your clients to those. And then they have an object for service delivery. You can say, okay, well, I delivered to this client 10 pounds of food, and to this other client $100 of rent support, something like that. And then what case management does for you is it provides for you the capability of kind of providing services over a long period of time. So for example, with the nonprofit that I'm working with, they have a single parent program, and they work with single parent or parents over multiple years. They are sometimes going through college and things like that. So it's kind of like a service cloud type of functionality, but it is geared toward nonprofits' needs. So that's one side I'm working on, and I'm also working with an ISV on their loan management package. And what I usually do is I set up very complicated application flows that run on communities for the applicants. So that's usually most of my time that I spend. These nonprofits are providing usually zero interest or low interest loans to entrepreneurs or their own constituents, and we set up application forms for them.
So question for you, what is it like working with person accounts so frequently? Working with the nonprofit success pack, you must work with person accounts a lot, right?
Well, I don't think nonprofit success pack setup is what you would call the person account setup. It's actually
the households, right?
Yeah, the household, and underneath the household, there's the contact. So what is unique to nonprofit is that when you set up a contact, unless you change all the defaults, it's going to create automatically an household account. So that's not usually the case. And then you have underneath the account, you have a primary household member, and then you have also the other household members that you can add to that. And there are some interesting things that come with that. For example, if you change the primary contact underneath the household, it actually writes to the contact and also to the account that information. So it sometimes causes weird things with your automation and things like that, because both records are updated. It takes a little bit time and practice to get used to it, but I mean, it's a good setup. It's not bad.
Awesome. And we just had a new person join as well. Welcome. And you're auto muted when you join the meeting, by the way, so sorry. So if you wouldn't mind telling us about what started you on your architect journey, where you are located, and then where you are at in your next exam. Fodil?
Okay, hello everyone. I will introduce myself. So I'm Fodil. I am from Algeria. exactly Algiers, capital. So now I have only one experience in Salesforce. I'm a little maybe beginner. I want to only to learn about architecture modules because I don't have I don't have really followed any architecture models. So I want to learn about how architect how really architect works, and I haven't yet scheduled my certification for ARCT exam. So it's kind of I want to learn more to prepare for certification. That's it.
Welcome. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. And how long have you been working with Salesforce?
1 year. 1 year.
Okay.
Developer and administrator stuffs, so both.
Okay. And so we've just been going around. We've been chatting. We've all done a little bit about what our next exams are. We have people that are taking their platform dev. We have people. I'm taking my MuleSoft and then my integration. We have Daniel's taking his deployment exam. We have some people taking sharing and visibility. Some people taking their identity. We have some people prepping for their boards. We've had a couple of people drop for other meetings. Other people drop for family. But it's been a good call so far to find out where everyone is.
So
yeah.
I thank you everyone for this series, because the most important to me is to get the certificate as soon as possible, but to learn about how the core and how architect the job of architect looks like. That's what is most important to me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah, that's one thing that we've been talking about too, is what is it that we're working on right now, and what are some of the cool things that we want to learn about and that we have been focused on lately. We talked a little bit about the new deployment, the new dev center that's coming out from Salesforce, and the replacement for change sets that's coming out as a dev preview this month and going out GA next year. And you can catch some of the videos and screenshots of that on the Standard Architect group by Salesforce. Andy was telling us about his experience working with the Nonprofit Success Pack and the new case management package that's available, which sounds pretty cool. Definitely worth checking out. Daniel was telling us about deployments and some of the things that he's been learning there. Lizu came from the developer world as a Java developer, and she's more of an enterprise architect, and she was going into some of that and just her experience there and her switch over into Salesforce. She definitely has a great background. It's very diverse in terms of technology, so she has some awesome experience. And then, yeah, just sharing some of that general knowledge that we have about what is it that we do day to day, and what is it that we're interested in learning next, to see if we can help each other out. And there's so much out there in Salesforce that there is a ton to learn about. See you, Andy. Thank you for coming. No worries. And we definitely have a lot to learn about, and there's always going to be more to learn. And so as we start digging in, and as we go day to day, those different problems that we encounter, those different gotchas that we find out about, just making sure that we share those with each other. And also those cool new features we find out about. One thing that came up also were multi-org strategies. And so that, next call, we can go over multi-org strategies and how do you deal when you have numerous orgs? Do you have them integrated? Do you use Salesforce to Salesforce? Do you use another tool? How do you set up your new orgs so that they're able to communicate, etc.? So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing lately.
Okay, so lastly, in that year, so I have a lot of tasks according to integrating Salesforce with the party APIs. So I have a lot of tasks regarding integrate Salesforce with third parties, like sending data from Salesforce to those third parties, third APIs. Also getting data from a third party APIs to Salesforce. So I've done a lot of tasks related to integration. So that drives me to learn a lot of architecture. So and qualify myself, I'm entitled to for the integration architecture. I've also done administrator stuff, reports, dashboard, also flows, and trying to follow the low code philosophy. Also, I have done some develop stuffs like optimizing some codes, Apex, and LWC and Oracle components.
Nice.
Uh,
I was just mentioning a little while before you joined about how LWC is something that components are something that I'm starting to work on. You can do a little Apex, you can do a little Visual Force. I've written a few Aura components, but Lightning Web components are a whole new world to me. And so I didn't come from the world of development. I started as an admin on my way to architect. And so Lightning Web components are definitely something that I'm finding interesting, but also scary. So yeah, very cool, man. Very cool.
I understand, yeah. And also, most of the project I on are on Salesforce, so they haven't moved yet to the Lightning experience. And in those platforms where I have done integration tasks.
So how many of you actually have customers or orgs that are still on Classic? Anyone else? I know I do. We're still doing Lightning migrations. Yeah. Okay. It so blows my mind that they are still out there. Then again, I am someone that works in Classic setup. I can't stand that new Lightning setup. It's so many clicks to get everywhere. I can't do it.
Yeah, and I feel like Classic is more than the Lightning experience. I don't know why. Maybe because it's on page, so until you download the page, everything works good. But experience, so you have to refresh, you have to wait. I don't know.
So I know that that's one thing that our developers are always writing in is that our components refresh with updates. It'd be great if Lightning could just do that. That's a great point. And that it's only the components that are updating rather than the page to help speed things up too. And another thing is the amount of space that you have on the screen is also difficult. Lightning just takes up a lot of room, and it's nice to be able to see a record on a page. But make sure that it's one thing when we all talk about it. It's another thing when we all go and make sure that we have ideas on the idea exchange for it. So I mean, they're working on getting ready to change that finally. So maybe if we all get enough votes out there for less gaps between fields, or a more compact layout option. Because I always change my Lightning view to compact, but it never seems to do anything for the actual view. I feel like there's still so much space in between everything. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of white space. So sometimes I just want to see a lot more on a screen without having to zoom out.
Right. And I think in Lightning, I keep my page at about 75%. And then when I go back to Classic, I bump it back up to 100. My CEO and I think are the only people that are still on Classic. But they give us the power to switch back. So why not switch back until they ban it?
Yeah, what I'm finding interesting about the Lightning features coming out is, and what it's challenging me to do is to, again, putting on a little bit of the architect hat is, they're totally different user interface paradigms. And so I think they're opening up the door for more flexibility, but to bring full value to what their vision is requires me to think outside of the classic box of how things had to be like mostly page layout driven. And you have now, or will have more and more freedom to really design, these app pages and buttons and such and fields to tell it exactly what you need, but to not do it with the old way influencing it. And same with Flow, right? All the different innovations with Flow coming out, it was a shift from how I might have designed something with Process Builder. So it's just another example of there's always so much coming out. I think sometimes the challenge is taking time to pause and use the new tool set in a different way that unlocks a better user experience for everyone. It definitely takes a lot of time investment and change management for those managing the systems as well as the users.
Maybe we can wait one more release and, not have something be MVP. And, there's just so much out there and more is happening. And everything just keeps coming out. And I don't know, maybe it's just going to keep improving. And of course it will, but maybe it has sped up, but maybe that one feature, that one item, if we check our release notes, now instead of, when we're finished with design because they came out, maybe we'll end up finding out, we can tell the customer and they'll be fine with waiting until R2 for that one thing, or they'll go with out of the box for right now because that feature that would be development today in winter, if they wait until, a couple sprints down the road, isn't going to be. It's so much, like, for one of my great example is the fact they wanted to print list views in a community, and they wanted to have a printout of pages. It was originally written during the estimate. It's being custom development because you couldn't print list views in a community. Well, this has happened for like at least a handful of items during design this past week. Well, that's coming out in winter 21. That just came out in summer. And they're like, well, aren't you just full of all the things coming out right now? And I know they're saying it in a nice, fun way, but it's like, well, yeah, I read my release notes. And all these things were custom dev, put it like 55 points. Now they're declarative, or it bumped down to like 3 points. All it is adding the action to the page. So exciting. So exciting. But I know we're getting towards the top of the hour here, and we've got to, I think we're getting close to a time to wrap. Is there anything else that that you all want to add, or make sure that we add to the agenda for next time, or want to make sure that we have people to present on for topics?
Can anyone dance about integration patterns or something like that?
Yeah, we can absolutely get some discussions going on integration patterns and have some people leading that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Anything specific? Anything more specific, or just general integration patterns?
As I'm a beginner, I think I will start with the general, later on by maybe having specific topics.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Absolutely. All right, everybody. I want to tell you all thank you so much for being here. It was great getting to know all of you, and for you all to take the time to join from all around the world in different times. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a happy rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.